Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Sadaf. I'm from Embra Health. Today, I'm here with Casey, and we're going to be talking about balancing personal life with surrogacy. This topic is meant to be just a gentle reminder that even though you're embarking or in a very huge, amazing, beautiful experience, you have these other wonderful, amazing, big parts of your life to balance. And sometimes we'll question how to do that. And so hopefully today in this conversation, you'll get some gentle reminders on how, some good feedback on what works, and just some healthy resources that you'll be able to utilize throughout your experience to make sure everything still feels good. Casey?
Yeah, we're just so excited to have Dr. Sadaf and going through these things. These are important topics to Surrogacy Is. So it's a never-ending dialogue to be able to give you guys those resources and make sure you remember and know that they're here and available to you. So it's good.
Thank you. Let's jump in. Okay. A little bit about me again. I'm founder of Embra Health. Embra Health, we are partners with Surrogacy Is. So excitedly to be offering support services throughout your experience for a variety of reasons. So you'll see us time and time again, and we're happy to be here. Talking about surrogacy in just a broad sense, when you are a carrier or sort of embarking on a journey as a carrier, you're entering this new realm, which is surrogacy, right? And I think we all can understand at this point that surrogacy touches every single part of your life. It is a huge commitment. It affects your future plans. It takes up space in your brain. It affects how you're going to be planning for the next year or so with your family, your own health. It is more than just appointments and messages. It's a big, big thing. It's a wonderful thing. So you have quite a bit of an emotional experience going through any sort of big thing. Think about a big job, think about a big move. Now here's surrogacy. The part of this that I hope feels validated once we continue talking is that it can be great and wonderful, and it can be overwhelming, exhausting, a lot. There's a physical component here of pregnancy, right? So we're not going to all pretend that it's lovely and amazing the entire time. It's not, but everything can be true at the same time. Great and not great.
Yes.
So the full plate reminder is kind of the idea that if you are new to surrogacy or starting a surrogacy journey or in one, you had a life before surrogacy, right? You likely had many responsibilities and many aspects of your identity before. You're probably a mom, a partner, a friend, employee, caretaker, who knows? Some of us wear many, many hats beyond this outside of these sort of dominant ones. This life brought you to this experience. So we don't want to invalidate what has been there before. We don't want to like put surrogacy too high on a priority list when you have your family and you have your own identity and responsibilities. So that's the important part to start with, that you are hopefully already full coming into surrogacy, and surrogacy can be like the ice cream and the dessert afterward, right? It adds a major layer, being a carrier, to that plate. And today we'll hopefully give you some guidance on how to manage that type of additional layer. Balancing is not about doing it all. So I do want to talk about balancing for a sec, because we talk about this word balance. And I think for most people, it ends up being like, you think of that scale where like it has to be evenly weighed out. Like this is balance when they're equal and they're even. And for many of us who've lived this lifetime, we've learned that that's not balance. Like that is impossible to have things feel exactly the same, exactly equal, and that feels good. Balance will mean whatever version of this picture makes sense in your life. And balance is also not still. Balance moves with time. So at some points and on any given day, your balance ratio of what's work, what's life, what's mom, what's this and that will be different than the next and different than the next. So in surrogacy, I think that's helpful to also recognize that when we're talking about surrogacy and life outside of surrogacy, we're not aiming for, okay, I'm going to spend 50% of my time here and 50% of my time here. It will vary day to day. It'll vary hour to hour at some points. And that's how it's supposed to look. Balance is not finite. It's not still. The importance is going to be learning to shift your focus. And the goal of shifting focus will always be protecting your energy. When we're talking about balance, the importance of balance is that part, is the protection of your energy, your well-being. So that's how you can tell when things are off or things feel good, is when you're checking in and you're noticing, okay, this is good. I feel good. Casey, anything to add?
Yeah, I think so, as a surrogate myself, I remember thinking, first of all, surrogates by nature are givers. So they just want to do and give and give and give. And a saying that I say all the time, probably has been done being said, is you don't know what you don't know until you've gone through it. And I think the reality of surrogacy is, especially for Surrogacy is when we're onboarding these women considering surrogacy, is telling them the real truth of the very serious component of how much time you're going to be pouring into this, whether it be you are a working mom and have a family and you have all of these other things that you're juggling. Do you have the time? Is your work going to allow you that time to go to a medical screening, to be present for a match call, to start the process of IVF? Like, there are all these variables that you don't really think about. You think about, I'm going to do surrogacy and I'm going to be pregnant. But there are all these steps ahead of time. And so we really try to focus on balancing that expectation of what to anticipate, so that you don't feel totally like the rug has been pulled underneath you, saying, I had no idea how much time was going to be put into this process. So that's, as an agency, our job, hopefully, is to give you all those tools to expect what to anticipate, so you can decide balancing and what that looks like.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And then I think an important one, because what we'll often see about surrogacy is like, you're pregnant and you're helping someone and then you just have the baby. And for many people, your pregnancy experience might have been that way. Like, I was just pregnant and life went on and I did my thing, and it was a total, like, it was not inconvenient to my life. But I think with surrogacy, there's this other experience of pregnancy where there will be more asked of you and your time and responsibility. And that's something to be aware of, you know, in consideration of, can I do this with everything else in my plate, right? So boundaries, this is the word of the day. This is how we care for ourselves. And I like reframing boundaries in that way. Boundaries, whether they're emotional, whether they're physical, whatever boundary we're setting, this is a means to protect your well-being. They're always with your care in mind. So we love boundaries. They're scary to do for some, but we love them. And that's going to be a little bit of what we'll dive into now. They protect your energy and your time. They're not barriers. So sometimes for the givers, right? Those who love to be there for others and will do what they can. Boundaries is not a nice word, because it sometimes sounds like, oh no, like I have to put something in the way of that. And maybe I don't want to, but like, I know it could be good for me. And that feels like I'm hurting someone else. So like, maybe I don't want to do that. They keep you healthy and steady throughout a surrogacy journey. And we like to call them seatbelts, right? Like in the car, when you're in any sort of moving vehicle, you have something innately there to protect you. And a boundary is exactly that. Sometimes you don't need your seatbelt, but you always keep them on. And so with boundaries, that's sort of the idea, is like, this isn't to like hurt someone else. This is literally something that straps you into your safety. And maybe you don't need it. Maybe you do. Maybe someone does something that threatens a boundary of yours and your seatbelt turns on, right? Like, that's what it is for. And so if that could be a nice way to think about why we use them, why they're important, I'd encourage you to keep that. These are your seatbelts. They keep you safe. They keep you protected emotionally. They don't hurt anyone. If someone else is experiencing something like that from your boundaries, that wasn't your seatbelt. That was them not wearing a seatbelt, or maybe their seatbelt's defaulted. I don't know. But the point of this is we will talk about how to set some of these. When you want to say yes to something, especially in surrogacy or, you know, in conversations or even outside of surrogacy, yes only applies when it feels manageable. That should be when the yes goes out. So again, like our yeses, especially for the givers, we love to give those freely. Yes, 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 yes. I could do that. I could do that. Sure. Anything, sure. But we want to say yes only if it feels manageable. And you can probably think of some times where you've said yes to something, and right after you said yes, like, oh crap, how am I going to do that? Like, how is this going to work? Right? Like, that's not manageable. That's going to extend me too much. That's going to affect my emotional health in some way. That's going to take a part of my time that I need, that's not manageable. So yeses apply when it feels manageable. That's a good key indicator of where our boundary is. Casey.
No, it's so good. I think my husband is my my life vest when it comes to me saying yes and going outside of those boundaries. He looks at me, he goes, "You shouldn't have said that." And I go, I know. So it's learning that seatbelt is there and that you should use it. Because the thing is true about surrogacy, and its timing has to be right. And maybe it doesn't mean that it's a never. It might just mean timing isn't right at this moment if you just started a job and you can't take time off of work, you know?
Yeah. That's cool. Wonderful applications of when we're thinking about, like, can I say yes to surrogacy? Can I balance this in my whole world right now? And timing is a huge factor of it that we never really talk about, right? Like, it can totally be part of your story at a different part of your story. And that's like perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Being honest about what you can and can't do. We're kind of already on this topic now. In regards to surrogacy in general, the finer details of this will be around things like availability, visits, texting, emotional check-ins. So like as a carrier, you will have a responsibility to another person or persons that is sort of part of this journey with you. And can you take that on right now? Is that going to feel like a lot? You may be expected to communicate more than you usually do, or share information that feels vulnerable, or share information that feels private, right? And so is this something that would feel manageable if you said yes to right now in your life? And do you have a seatbelt? Do you have boundaries in place where it's like, I can do this, and this is where it would get uncomfortable for me. This is where I have limitations, etc. You want to communicate these early on, not only to your intended parents, but to your agency. Case in point with Casey, right? Like if you're having those initial conversations with your agency and you're like, I did start a new job. I have a 2-year-old, and, you know, my partner's starting a new job too. And we're like, okay, let's think about logistically, how does this look? Tell me the best version of this, and let's see if that matches what would be the expectation. So communicating these very early on, super important, and just being very clear. Clarity builds trust. It's like the fastest, it's like the metro train to trust, being very clear and honest. And sometimes we fear that clarity, being honest, can be what actually deters the train. But oftentimes, especially with something like this is a very real life situation, human to human interactions, a big, big physical experience. Everything needs to be clear and transparent. And if it's not seeking a path or an answer that you wanted, that's probably for the best based on what's happening right now in, you know, the universe. And, you know, again, the timing of this makes sense. Your story can be surrogacy at a different point of your story, and that might be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So talking with your intended parents, we're going to assume we're in an agency setting now, and you're kind of diving into this, and you're like, okay, now I have to deal with this other part of a pregnancy where it's not just me and my partner, right? It's me, my partner, my kids, and, you know, someone from Germany, or, you know, whoever it is, this beautiful couple from New York. And so thankfully in this agency, we have checkpoints to increase communication and build trust as you go along. You know, at the beginning, you didn't meet each other at a coffee shop, spend 4 hours talking, and just like love each other, right? We're still getting to know each other at every single conversation in this experience, at the same time growing this baby with love and care. So the first checkpoint that you'll get a really good space to get to know each other, learn about each other's expectations, communicate needs, will be that joint consultation. After you've matched, which is our first date, everybody feels good, the vibes are high, we like each other, let's do this. The joint consultations, or second date is what I like to call, which is still vibes are high, but we're kind of getting in there a little bit more, right? We talked about these things the first time, but here's where I'm at now after I've sat and thought about them. We get into, you know, you as a carrier and the intended parents, we get into the very, very nitty-gritty specifics now. Communication, yes, we want to communicate. How? Is texting going to feel good? What about FaceTime calls? What do we need to tell each other if the communication is either feeling less than we want or more than we need? How do we indicate where our parameters are? Are there any expectations or limitations that are helpful for us to know right now? For example, if you have someone whose 8-year-old is in soccer, they don't have weekends. They do soccer tournaments every weekend, right? Maybe that's a good fact to know. Hey, if we're like if we're not texting you on the weekend, it's because we're in a different city at a soccer tournament, and we'll get back to you on Monday. So these are the tiny little details that we'll exchange that helps everyone understand each other's boundaries, expectations for communication, and even problem solving. So we'll talk about conflict resolution as well. And again, this is a great way to maintain the balance. I don't want my relationship with you, the intended parent or the carrier, to be what's taking up so much of my emotional and mental space. I want to be clear on, this is what they need from me. This is what I can offer. We are good. So that's what happens in that first meeting. And it usually ends up being very productive. You lean into each other a little bit more. You're like, okay, I can start to trust us and this. And that's not in a negative way, but like trust will still be something that's earned and built intentionally as you go through your journey with your IP. Throughout your journey, obviously, you'll have those moments and milestones and touch points together. And then when we're closer to birth, we'll actually kind of get back together again for what we call like a birth prep meeting. And this isn't the logistics of birth prep. We're not talking about, anything medical. We're purely focusing on, how are we feeling? How are we doing? And what do we need to now prepare for? This big thing is coming up. So here we're talking about, again, expectations around the birth experience, but how everyone is going to feel around these expectations, what needs to be considered on all sides. So we're making you discuss your boundaries, your expectations, your limitations, again, in this meeting prior to this huge, huge pinnacle of the journey. And this tends to be, a beautiful conversation. And we had one of these last week, so it's fresh in my mind, but this tends to be a beautiful way to reflect on how things have been going, to get excited about what's ahead, but then also to get very real, right? Like we are now at a very real point of this experience. We're not in the beginning just excited for an embryo transfer. There's a baby coming, and there's a person who's about to give birth, maybe for the first time in an experience like this. And there are these parents who maybe are going to be seeing this part of their family building for the first time as well. Emotions are high. We want to talk about everything, and we want to make sure everyone's respected and everyone's boundaries, again, are understood so that we know what that day looks like. Anything to add, Casey?
I was just going to say, in partnering with you and the Embra team, that was one of the most, I was grateful to hear that these are resources you had, and was eager to have that be part of our program, because you see when you those feelings are high and you're excited after a match call, and then you go for a medical screening and you get medical clearance, you're still on cloud nine. But then you enter into that phase of legal, and you are, whether you like it or not, going to have to think about all of those maybe not so fun topics that we know will likely not happen, but they still have to be part of that contract. With regards to termination stance, what does everybody want as far as the actual dynamic of that relationship? And maybe the intended parents have an expectation for you not to travel at a certain time in the pregnancy that's more than what you typically see. Or maybe the parents aren't looking for necessarily a lot of communication afterwards. And that second meeting, your second date, as you called it, which I think is great, is that opportunity for those conversations to be had, so that we can make sure that your seatbelt's on, you are sharing what's important to you, and the parents are sharing what's important to them and why, so that everybody can decide, is this really a good fit? We all feel and are excited and ready and motivated, but I think having that serious conversation and those deeper whys to their reason for maybe why they don't want to be in the delivery room, but as a surrogate, you really want them in the room. Maybe they had a traumatic experience, and for them, that's going to be a moment where they're holding their breath their entire time. So I think that these are really a beautiful opportunity for us to create the best, healthiest journey and relationship, starting at the get-go, and then solidifying it at the end with the delivery prep and having that conversation, having you be a part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's nice because sometimes life will be busy and everyone's doing their thing, but like these will be the moments you can count on getting back together, right? Like I can count on us talking about this in a couple of weeks, as we approach birth, or I can count on, legals here. Whoa, this looks scary. I know there's a meeting where we're going to have some conversations around this. So like you can also just ease some of your worries around some of these big things, because there will be space for them, and it's sort of embedded in the process for you. We're also, with these meetings, the intention again is just constantly clear communication, clarity, clarity, clarity. So that's what we're doing. If you've ever had a meeting like these with me, I get to be the bad guy, and I kind of start the conversation. Like, you're not going to love me, but you're going to appreciate me because of what I'm going to be talking to you today. And hopefully that's the goal, is you will understand, to Casey's point, even those things that are just not fun to think about, we will think about them, and we'll think about them and talk about them out loud with each other. And what better way to build trust with each other than to say some of those scary things and be vulnerable. And so that's what we're doing in these spaces. And it tends to be the catalyst for, we've got this together.
Yep. Yeah.
Warm and direct language and communication is also something we'll model in these types of conversations, but it is the best way to kind of make sure what you're saying is clear, right? And when we're talking about things like boundaries, expectations, assumptions, these are sort of examples that sometimes in your mind sound scary to say, but they're totally not. They're benign. An example, I want to give this journey my best, so I'll need to check in after 5 p.m. once my kids are settled, right? We all have our lives. So if someone is on the other end texting in the middle of the day, being like, she's not responding to me, it would be helpful to know, like, hey, like, I am slammed until we get to dinner. And then when my kids are eating, I grab my phone and I'm replying to everyone. So like, those are great little tidbits that we share, so that we get that context from each other. The other part of this is also just busy life. If you're going into winter and you have little kids, your kids are going to be sick soon. So things will be all messed up. I'm already there too. I'm messed up. Hey, this week is busy for me. My little one is sick. Everything is fine. Please feel free to check in with me at any point, but I'm just going to kind of hop offline to focus on home. We can check in on Monday. Like, little reminders of, I'm here. I just need to kind of do this thing. That's how we're talking about balance. Like, this is what it actually looks like in real life. And then in our next slide, we'll talk about surrogacy-approved breaks, but just kind of going into these spaces of what balancing surrogacy looks like in your real life is living your real life with surrogacy. And those two will be friends sometimes, and sometimes those two will need to take a little time out and take a little break from each other. But the honesty is what's appreciated. So surrogacy-approved breaks, this is sort of my favorite sort of term. And the statement here that I think needs to be said out loud is, you're allowed to take breaks from surrogacy. You're allowed to not think about this thing. This is for the intended parents as well, too. Really stress this on intended parents, but also as a carrier. Obviously, you're pregnant. You know what's happening, but like in any other pregnancy for most women, you also kind of want to like dissociate from the pregnancy sometimes. You're like, oh, I know it's there, but I kind of just don't want to think about it. And that's okay to do in surrogacy. I think sometimes the idea is, because you're a surrogate, because you're doing this for someone else, you have to like be fully in it the whole time, and like be fully like, this has to be part of like your stress, and it's kind of a good stress. And that's not the case at all. Giving yourself permission to live your life during surrogacy, that is absolutely needed. It is okay to have days where you barely think about the pregnancy. Obviously, you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing. And like, yeah, you don't have to, maybe today's not the day that you want to send an update if you feel tired. And there really isn't anything to update, right? So like, that's perfectly fine. Caring for your child, resting, going on a date, kind of having your binging Netflix time, like whatever you need to care for yourself, whether this is a surrogacy or your own pregnancy or a non-pregnancy stage of your life, that's still the things that you'd hopefully do in this time. Taking breaks doesn't make you less committed. So again, for the givers who want to just make sure that they're doing things for others and are being recognized for doing things for others, which is sort of part of it, taking a break doesn't discount the validity of how amazing you are. Right? It doesn't discount or doesn't take away from this amazing commitment that you've made to others and just how great you are. Take your breaks. It makes you more sustainable. It helps you be even more committed in the points and times where you're going to need to amp that up. So when you can down, take the down.
It's also, I'm going to just add here, it's important to take those surrogacy approved breaks, not just for you, but for your family's sake. So you have your spouse who maybe you had to convince him that surrogacy is what you were doing.
Yep.
and you finally got them on board. Or maybe your kid's a little older and they're not totally for this, or maybe they're younger and they just don't understand. Taking those breaks, not just for your own well-being, but for your partner's well-being, for your kids' well-being, so that if this is something you decide you want to do again, and I have so many surrogates who say, I'm doing this again, after they've delivered and they've watched their intended parents hold their sweet baby, and watching that moment is so special. But you also want to make sure you haven't burned those bridges and you've had this be so consuming of your own life. And now your family is like, I'm not ready to do this again with you. This was a lot. And I want my wife, I want my mom back. So taking those breaks, not just for you, but also for your family's sake too.
Such a good point. Yeah. And like, there will be days where your partner doesn't want to hear about the intended parents, and like they deserve that as well, right? And to your point, when we're talking about balancing surrogacy in life, say taking the breaks from surrogacy innately means stepping back into mom and wife and sister in a way that feels sustainable. So like naturally that ebb and flow will happen the entire time. There will be seasons of, okay, I need to be really into this. And the hope here is that you recognize the seasons where it's like, okay, I can go to the soccer practice. Like I want to go on a date with my husband and I want to wear a cute little short dress and feel sexy. And I want to do that. And I'm okay with that. So yes, good point with that too. This isn't just something that makes surrogacy sustainable for you. It's also for everyone around you, those you love. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of talked about the ebb and pull, but some of the quick resets are great practices to kind of put into those moments, because sometimes they will be bigger, dramatic pushes and pulls, and other times there will be those tiny micro ones, like when you get a message from your IPs and they're like, hey, like, do you know anything about this or whatnot? And then you get that little like anxiety ping of like, oh no, I have to respond to them. What about the agency? Do they know? And you kind of do that whole little thing. Deep breath before answering a message, right? This is just good practice anyway. Sometimes we get those messages out of nowhere in the middle of our day that like send our heart attack into motion. And they're really not even that big of a deal. It's just kind of the sting, the original sting. Taking a deep breath before answering a message, stepping outside after an emotional appointment. Again, you-centered moments. What helps you in this moment? Tiny, tiny moments. Venting privately to your support person before replying to an intended parent. Maybe you're in an engagement or a dynamic where, yeah, the conversation with your intended parent is kind of icky and like it's not feeling good, or we're kind of in this little phase and communication is not going to feel good for them. So find somewhere and someone where communication still feels safe, still feels good. Process kind of how you're experiencing what you're experiencing. And that way someone else is receiving the processing and not your intended parent, which can ultimately make that stickier. Your agency coordinator is a great person for this, I imagine. You have mental health supports available. If we can be great spaces for you to be like, ugh, this is what's happening, I just need to see this through, we could be reliable for that as well. Quick journal notes and journaling through surrogacy is a very profound practice, and I wish we would encourage it more. But like having those written moments of like, what do I need? What's happening for me? And saying it out loud, but also writing it down in paper. There's therapeutic practice to writing. This could be a wonderful way where you can capture your experience and it's still with your seatbelt on. Again, you're not hurting anybody. You're protecting yourself. It's something for you. And then once you kind of move through the emotion, you can then understand what the action is, what needs to happen. Mm-hmm. But it's just remembering like you're a person first, a surrogate second. In surrogacy, that identity should not, sorry, Casey, disagree with me, should not take number one, right? Yeah. Number one will always be you, mom, wife, working, your career, like all of those things made who you are before you entered surrogacy. So surrogate should not just be like, oh, I'm here and I'm taking the cake. Surrogacy has to embed into the model that has already worked for you. Mm-hmm. And that's first.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And I think that although I hope that all the journeys have this happily ever, ending to the story and that it goes smoothly, I do see in my years of doing this is that there is moments of miscommunication, whether it be a language barrier, whether it be cultural barriers, and somebody thinks somebody's tone is off when really that's just their tone. And having and leaning in on your support and realizing you do have your agency that is here to support you. You do have this really built-in embedded support every month from Embra Health, who they can be that sounding board where you can say, I'm feeling this way. Am I totally off basis?
Right.
And how do I respectfully respond to this person where my seatbelt is on and I'm secure, but I'm getting my point across so that that relationship stays healthy? Because that's key in all of this. We don't want there to ever be boundaries. And you don't know until you're so far in it, you're pregnant, and maybe that miscommunication is happening, and now you're second guessing it all. And I think that leaning in and knowing that you have your seatbelt and you have all of these points of support, that if you're with an agency that's doing it right, they want to provide those things, to lean into those things, because it's huge, and it's an important piece that we should not forget. So I think it's big. It's really big.
I agree. So on the matter of support, my next slide is going right in there. So building your circle before you need it, which luckily with an agency like this one, they already have built your support circle before you even need it. But as a person, as a carrier, you're looking at your life, your family, your friends, and it's really important. I like the idea of before going into a surrogacy journey, like, okay, just inventory really quick. Like, who's going to be good for me to talk to about this? Who are the people that are not going to be great conversationalists around surrogacy? And do I need someone else? Do I need to add in a support group or some other person? Or maybe can I connect through my agency with another carrier, and could that be another person for me, right? Like, build the circle that you'll need. And I think, overlook this part sometimes, because for some women who have been pregnant before and who've carried and given birth, you feel like you know how to do this, which we do. Our bodies totally know how to do this. Our bodies understand, if you've gone through a birthing experience, how to get there again. But our minds do not know how to do this. Our minds didn't have to do it this way last time, right? Our body's going to know what to do, but our minds, our emotional space, this is a whole different ballgame. So you're going to need support, not for the pregnancy aspect. We can, as a carrier, you can do that part. Your body does that part. Your mind, your emotions, your mental space, this is brand new. So that's where we lean into the support. Having at least one friend, family member, a therapist, or just sort of a mental health space who can understand this world and the nuances of what this kind of emotional landscape looks like, super helpful. Joining a support group or an online community where others are sharing this type of experience with you, again, great. There are not a lot of people that you'll run into the grocery store with to be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm a surrogate, you too. Like, kind of, but like, no, it's not as common as we would think. So you would seek that sort of space out. Scheduling check-ins with a counselor if possible. So luckily, again, we are here for that. Embra Health can host a monthly sort of check-in space. And this is wonderful. We've done so many of these at this point. And sometimes you can go into it being like, I don't know, I'm just here. And we'll figure out and talk about how things are going. And it's like, this is so helpful for me to know. And now I can have a conversation with my intended parent. Or, sometimes we'll have spaces like that where it's like, yeah, me and my husband are just like not getting along right now, because I think we're both realizing how much of my time this is taking. And we'll help you navigate that space as well. There will be so many things that come up that those check-ins, even if you don't think you need them, can be useful for. So encouraging the use of those. You have them. You're lucky to have them, by the way. Please use them. If you're feeling too stretched or too thin, this is where your coordinators, I think, Casey, I think you'll speak to this, but like, they are your go-to person for like, oh, kind of not feeling good. This is a lot. What do we do here? Right. And there's guidance in place with your coordinators and their check-ins. And I'm sure there's a lot of conversations happening there to make sure if your seatbelt if you're feeling pressed against your seatbelt, you can talk to someone about that. This is my other favorite statement too. You deserve the same level of care you're giving. So the givers want to make sure that everyone else feels this from them. but you have to be able to receive that same level back, and you deserve to receive it. So a reminder for the givers, your agency is willing and wanting to give just this back. And sometimes we just have to remind ourselves that we're allowed, we have permission to receive it. We deserve it.
Mm-hmm. We've intentionally capped each of our journey coordinators at 25 cases. And why that is such a big deal is there are a lot of agencies that the journey coordinators managing 50 or 60 or more even cases. And the reason it was important to us to cap it is I want the journey coordinator to be fully invested in the entirety of your experience, where they have an ability to lean in at that point and say, you know what, I feel something's off with you today, or I've, this tension that's been building because of this one situation that happened. And maybe you're carrying that burden when it's not yours to carry. Let's lean in and let's have you connect with Embra Health, because that's why we have this, is in place of being able to have our journey coordinators lean in and get to know you, so much so that by the time you're done, they're a friend, a confidant, where they can say, hey, so-and-so, I think you need Embra, and here's why. Because those are the moments that those are our best friends that are saying that to us, right? Normally, like, hey, something's going on. I can see you're off, and you're carrying this and you shouldn't be. I need you to lean in and use these resources that we have available. So hopefully you will see and experience that when you're going through the Surrogacy Is process, because we've been very intentional in building that into our program.
Yeah, totally. All right. And we're talking about all these subtopics, but again, we're focusing on balance. Balance will include everything. It'll include the support system aspect. It'll include boundaries. It'll include managing expectations and being very clear about what you also need. And so what it looks like, again, day to day can be very different. These are some examples of, in reality, this is balance, right? Dropping your kids off, going to a monitoring appointment, coming home, cooking dinner, replying to the email from the agency. This is balance, right? Plus throwing in the me times in between. That's the part that we also have to prioritize. Saying no to an extra school event because you're tired. Mom guilt central, I know. But this is, again, balance, right? How much we give also has to feel as equal as how much we receive. If I give this to my family, if I give this to my agency, if I give this to my IPs, can I also give that back to myself? If I'm giving you time, can I give me time? This is how balance works. If you say no, if the answer is no, then that tells you where your seatbelt needs to be locked in place. Where do I need to put a boundary here? Choosing early bedtime over extra messages, still balance. The idea, again, to hone in with balance is it's fluid. It changes week to week. It offers grace. It's merciful. It doesn't have to be finite and equal. And that's the thing that in surrogacy, and honestly, in like literally anything in life, like when you're pulled in different directions, how you know you're balanced will be when you can step in and check in with yourself and say, okay, I feel okay. This feels good. And even in moments where you don't feel 100% good, you could still have the balance if you're recognizing this is sustainable. Sustainability is also a measure in our world. So closing thoughts, you can hold both lives with care. In surrogacy, you are holding a life, right? And I think that's the layer of this that is like, okay, I need to do everything I can. I have to give it my all in this space. But you have these other lives too, because you're a mom and you likely have other beautiful little things that also deserve your attention and time. So holding both your independent non-surrogacy life to your surrogate life, those both can happen in care, with care. You're building a family for someone else while nurturing your own. This is the ultimate sacrifice, the ultimate act of balance, but it takes so much heart, organization, and emotional awareness. In an agency like this, you have resources to support you if these things are your struggles. So use them. Remember, you're allowed to have limits. You're allowed to rest and take breaks. That doesn't take away from your commitment. You're allowed to live fully while carrying this gift. If you have a goal and now you're a surrogate and you're like, oh, I can't do that goal. I mean, mind it, as long as it's not like skydiving certification or like anything like that, like do the thing that you've been wanting to do if that feels sustainable during a surrogate journey. Yeah. Anything to add, Casey?
I don't think so. We're just so grateful to have you. And I think these have so much fruit to them that I'm grateful that we have this to give to these women who are considering surrogacy.
Thank you. What I'll add to is we're sort of changing the formatting of these things now. So what you'll expect to see, and we'll try this out, I imagine Surrogacy Is will take your votes, is this recording, as you've reviewed it, was sent out to you. We will have a supportive space sometime scheduled that you'll get a flyer for, where we're actually going to talk a lot more about this in an open setting. So no PowerPoint, no questions, no conversation. If any of this hit your heart in any way, or if any of these points that we've made are struggles for you right now, that's where that supportive space will be amazing. It is carriers only. It is also no parents allowed. So your agency won't be there, just me. And the intention of that is for no other reason than to just make sure if there's something weighing on you, if there's something heavy on your heart related to this balancing act, there's a space. There's a mental health person in the room, and there are other amazing women who are likely experiencing some level of this as well, and we can figure it out together.
Thank you, Dr. Sadaf.
Of course. All right. Thank you.